This week, the NASCAR Cup Series heads to the Talladega Superspeedway for what could prove to be one of the more exciting races of the season based off the last Superspeedway race at Atlanta. But we also have to consider what the Daytona 500 was, and that was very fuel saving, and a lot of guys just rode around for a majority of the race. So we kind of have to look at both of those types of races when determining what type of race this Talladega race is going to be. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down who I think is going to have the opportunity to win, as well as looking at some drivers who may perform better at Talladega than they have been the entire season up to this point, and of course looking at some parlays that I like to win some money. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. The first driver that I think is going to have a great opportunity to win on Sunday is the number 12 of Ryan Blaney. He's the most recent winner at the Talladega Superspeedway. He won last October in the playoff race, and every race since the 2022 October race, he has finished second or better. He has 3 top 3s in the next-gen car. In the April race in 2022, the first race with the next-gen car, he finished 11th. He's led laps in every race and has actually somewhat dominated every race but last year's race. I mean, leading over 20 laps at Talladega, especially with the new car, is something impressive, and I think Ryan Blaney is going to be a strong contender Sunday, so look out for him, possibly a winner. My next driver to watch out for is a driver who hasn't had a win in a couple years, and his last win was actually at Talladega in 2021, and that is the number 6 of Brad Keselowski. Now, I know you might be thinking, Brad Keselowski in the next-gen car at Talladega does not have some good finishes. He only has 1 top 5 since the next-gen car was implemented at Talladega, whereas in the past with the old car, he was fantastic and one of the best superspeedway racers in the field. He still is that. We've seen flashes at Daytona and Atlanta to know that Brad Keselowski still knows how to work the draft, and I really do believe he can break through and kind of go full circle and get the first win for RFK for himself as an owner driver. I think that would be spectacular, and like I said, coming full circle at Talladega really would be a storybook. Definitely watch out for Brad Keselowski on Sunday. Moving on to the next driver that I think has a strong opportunity to win on Sunday, this is another previous Talladega winner, and that is the 23 of Bubba Wallace. But if we were to look at Bubba Wallace's finishes with the next-gen car at Talladega, they are pretty lackluster. But again, last year in April, he had an opportunity to really win that race on the last lap if he didn't throw a bad block. He led 35 laps in that race. In the 2022 April race, he led 15 laps, and he's led in 3 out of the 4 Talladega races. I know the finishes aren't there, but Bubba Wallace has shown flashes of being good on the superspeedway racetracks like Atlanta, Daytona, and even Talladega. I expect Bubba Wallace to possibly break through for the first win of the 2024 campaign and get 23-11 back to victory lane. Now, this next driver might be considered an underdog, but it might just because he hasn't won in a couple years, but really he's in strong equipment, and it would be kind of cool to see him win, especially after who won last week at Texas, and that was one of his teammates finally breaking a winless streak. This next driver is Alex Bowman. Now, I know you might be thinking, Alex Bowman hasn't won since 2022, but hear me out. Yes, last year in October, he did finish 28th. He led 13 laps in that race, but in the 2 races before that, and he did miss a race with a concussion in 2022, but he finished 9th in 2022 in the spring race, and in 2023 in April, he also finished 13th. He led 8 laps in the spring race of last year, so he does know how to lead at Talladega, and I really do believe Alex Bowman could have the opportunity to get redemption. He finished 2nd in the Daytona 500 and was inches away from winning that race. He was in contention for most of that race. I really do believe Alex Bowman has what it takes to break through and end this winless streak a week after his teammate Chase Elliott ended his winless streak. Watch out for the 48. And the final driver that I'm predicting to have a strong chance to win at Talladega is the number 1 of Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain won the 2022 race, the first race at Talladega with the next-gen car. He only led 1 lap, but it's the only lap that matters. In October that same year, he led 36 laps and ended up finishing 4th, so another strong effort. The past 2 races, though, have been pretty bad. Last year in the playoff race, he did crash out of that race, so we won't really count that. And then in 2023, I believe he was one of the cars that had to pit late in the race, but he was up in contention on the last few restarts and really could have had a strong finish in that race too. Chastain almost won the Daytona 500 if he didn't crash out coming to the white flag. I picked him to win the Daytona 500, and I'm going to pick him to win at Talladega because I think he is going to get another superspeedway win just like he did in 2022, and it can very well come this Sunday at Talladega, so definitely watch out. Ross Chastain, he'll be a driver to watch. So now we move into the portion of the video where I'm going to talk about drivers who are going to perform better at this race than they have been the entire season up to this point. I pick 3 drivers every video, and this week the 3 drivers that I'm picking are Justin Haley, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Eric Jones. Let's touch on each of those really quick on why they're going to do better this week. So let's talk about why I think Justin Haley is going to perform extremely well this weekend at Talladega. And it's pretty obvious. Justin Haley is an extremely talented super speedway racer. We saw it in the Xfinity Series. He had multiple wins in the Xfinity Series at Talladega and Daytona. And in the next-gen car in the last 4 races, all of his races have been top 20 finishes with this car. In October of last year, he finished 6th after starting 30th. And I'll tell you what, I know that he's in the Rick Ware Racing cars, but now they have that RFK alliance. RFK is extremely talented on super speedway races with Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski, so I don't see why Justin Haley can't work with them, and maybe he gets involved and could get up there to get a top 15 finish just like he did in the past few races. I think Justin Haley is going to have a good run. He finished 20th at Atlanta, another drafting track, so definitely watch out. He's extremely talented. That's all I'm going to say. I know the equipment might not be there, but if some wrecks happen, who knows? Maybe he can get inside the top 10, but I really do believe he's going to take home a top 15 this weekend. If we look at Ricky Stenhouse Jr., we'll look at his Talladega stats with the next-gen car. There's nothing really there that says he's going to be a winner, but I do predict him to be a lot higher finishing in this race than he has the entire season, because most of the time he really finishes in the top 20, if that, and I expect him to get a top 10 at Talladega. He has a 15th last year in the spring race. He's had some issues finishing these races. In April of 2022, he was caught in a wreck. And last year in the playoff race, he had an issue that ultimately put him in the back of the pack, and he was never able to recover. He did lead 14 laps in that race, which was promising. And then on top of that, he had a 6th place finish at Atlanta, which was the last drafting track. So I expect Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to get a top 10 in this race. Now, if we look at Erik Jones, in the last 4 races with the next-gen car at Talladega, he has 3 top 10s, and all of them were 6th place finishes. He's led laps in all the races with the next-gen car at this track, and 2 of the races were pretty dominant. Leading over 20 laps is impressive, especially with this next-gen car at these super speedway races. He almost won the first race in 2022 with the next-gen car. He was literally half a tri-oval away from winning, and he just made the wrong move, and it ultimately dropped him back to 6th place. On top of that, he finished 8th in the Daytona 500, so he really knows how to get around at these drafting tracks with the next-gen car. I do expect Erik Jones to follow up and get another maybe 6th place finish inside the top 5, maybe even up into the top 3. Will he win? Possibly. He was close before, but definitely he'll be running a lot better at this track than he has been the entire season. Moving into the betting portion of this video, I'm going to be doing 2 parlays this week, just like every other week, and I have the head-to-head, and then I have the top manufacturers. For the top manufacturers, I'm picking Alex Bowman to be the top Chevy and Erik Jones to be the top Toyota. If you parlay those together, you get $10 to possibly win $800. I really believe Alex Bowman and Erik Jones are going to be strong. They both don't have to get extremely high up into the field, but again, this is just top Chevy and top Toyota. If the top 5 are all Fords and Alex Bowman is 6th and he's the Chevy and Erik Jones is 7th and he's the Toyota, that bet wins and we win $800. Now let's show you the head-to-head bet that I like. And both of these bets are on DraftKings, and now we're going to look at the head-to-head bet. And again, this is somewhat of a Hail Mary, and you don't have to do all the legs. These are just the guys that I like in the head-to-head category, so you don't have to do every single one. I have 8 of them, but you can really only pick like 4 if you want. You'll still win a decent amount of money because the odds are different with Talladega races versus like other races at mile and a half. But let's get into it. We have Noah Gragson over Ty Gibbs, Austin Dillon over Corey LaJoie, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. over Michael McDowell, Denny Hamlin over Joey Logano, Erik Jones over Daniel Suarez, Brad Keselowski over William Byron, Ryan Blaney over Chase Elliott, and Bubba Wallace over Kyle Busch. Wow, that's a mouthful to say. Again, this is a Hail Mary with 8 legs. You don't have to do all 8 of them. If you only want to pick 3, 4, 5, that still works. You'll still win a decent amount of money. I, on the other hand, I like to go big or go home. So let me know what you guys think this weekend. Who do you think is going to win at Talladega? Who do you think is going to perform better? What do you think of the bets? As always, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.